Have you ever looked around at your life and on paper, everything looks successful, but somewhere inside of you, something feels off? And then somehow it gets away from you, and that off feeling feels off for so long that you are miserable and you're holding it all together, but never feeling fully at home. And if that tension has been quietly living inside your body, your experience, this conversation is going to speak directly to you. I'm Andrea Tessier, self trust coach for high achieving women, and I help women at decision points, thresholds, and next level moments learn to trust themselves so deeply they can move forward with clarity and conviction. Today, I am joined by the brilliant Valerie Jones, author of The Selfish Year and host of the Selfish Woman podcast. Valerie guides powerful women to scale their empires and shape culture without losing themselves in the process. And this conversation, friends, goes way beyond surface level of leadership advice. We are talking about what it really means to reclaim the word selfish, the masks that high achieving women wear to stay safe, and why self trust, not more strategy, is the foundation that's been missing. Also, Valerie and I share this really powerful moment where we explore why sometimes the most aligned move is the most radical one, especially when those old ways just aren't working anymore. So if this is you, you are a high achieving woman who knows she is meant for more. If you've been feeling the quiet pull towards deeper self trust, or if you are ready to become the queen of your own castle and build the inner architecture of your life, you are going to love this conversation. Okay. Hi, everybody. Hi, Val. I'm so excited to have Valerie with us today. And we are actually just going to dive right into it rather than starting with the typical who are you? What is your bio? I think that can really come through in our conversation. And I want to start with a deeper question than that.
Let's get into it, Andrea. Let's go
Yeah.
for it.
Okay. So tell all of us, who was Valerie before the selfish year?
Yeah. You know what? Who she was somebody who was very selfless and was checking all the boxes of the selfless woman, right? Like, this is the noble way to live a life. This is the right way to live a life. I was deep in my good girl conditioning from my childhood. And so I thought if I was doing that right, putting everybody else first and not making waves and not rocking the boat, that life would go well for me. But it didn't. And I found myself in 2019 at the end of myself and realized that, like, this was not sustainable. This was not working. And I was doing all the things, going to therapy. I was a life coach. I was reading all the books and trying everything to make my life work on the inside, even if it looked like it was working on the outside. And I came to the end of that ability to perform the good girl and to perform the nice one and to perform the one who had the happy marriage, And so that's really who I was at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So what wasn't working about that?
Well, I was miserable. I was depressed. I was anxious. I was stuffing my feelings with food and alcohol. I was in an emotionally abusive marriage. I was self-abandoning everywhere. So really just I really knew how to keep everybody else happy and in love with me or seeing me as like a great mom, a great wife, a great coach, great friend. But inside I was pretty much empty. Like, I just felt as though everything I was doing was just making me more exhausted, more anxious, and really more lost. So I guess I'd say I didn't know who I was, even though I thought I did. I didn't find out till later that who I thought I was still a performance. It goes so deep with women, this performance, this idea that we have to be and play a certain role that we've been given or taught goes so deep that we think we're living it, we're just, this is who I am. I'm a control freak. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a people pleaser, whatever we identify ourselves with. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a professional. And underneath, we're just the walking dead. I call myself the walking dead, like nobody alive from the neck down.
Yeah. That's so interesting, right? We're so good at putting on the mask and figuring out who we want to be. Why do you think that is?
Because women are living in a patriarchy and we are conditioned through we're conditioned through our childhood for the most part, not because our parents are evil necessarily. Most parents have good intentions, but they've trained us and conditioned us to be nice, be polite, don't upset anybody, don't offend anybody, override your own comfort for everybody else, go hug your Uncle Larry who's a creep, like whatever it is. Every moment conditions women to play a role. And good thing, because that's what's kept us safe, right? Like those roles, those masks that we learn to wear through, like I said, childhood, maybe it's school, maybe it's religion, maybe it's culture, tell us to wear a mask to stay safe. And so we do, right? We wear these masks of the good girl, the controller, the achiever, whatever. And it keeps us safe because it keeps us in acceptance and it keeps us in love. And that's okay. But it comes a point where the masks start to break down and we just start to feel like there's something wrong or there's something missing. And it's hard to put your finger on. But once you can realize that it's because you're wearing a mask most of your time in your life, even with yourself, you don't have connection to your soul. Your soul is starving and you're wearing a mask and you're expecting life to feel okay, and it doesn't.
That exactly. Like so well said. And, I think the people listening to this that have been listening to me for years have heard me say this with different language. Like through an IFS lens, we would call those all parts.
That's right.
People pleasing part, the perfectionist part, the overachiever part, the doubter part. And when we can think of them as masks or think of them as parts, what that gives us is actually like a little bit of power to say, "Oh, that's not me, that's a part of me."
Mhm. Mhm.
And what we get when we have that space is access to what you're just calling as like your true self, who
Yeah.
you actually are, and that's the whole point.
Yeah. And so in 2020, I pretty much just went on a journey of trying to understand the masks I'd been wearing my whole life and what happens if I take those off. What happens if I get the masks out of the driver's seat in my life? Well, then who's driving? I had no idea. And so I like using the term masks for women because it's this sort of iconography that we can work with that isn't good or bad, it's simply a construct, right, as you know? And then we can put them to work in different ways in our life that actually work for us instead of sabotaging us.
Yeah. So, yes, 100%, and I feel that, like, that's the
Yeah,
work I do too, which is
yeah.
like we connect. What beliefs did you have to dismantle in order to take off the mask?
Yeah. I think, it's interesting because I didn't even know I had to dismantle beliefs at that point. I was just like, I gotta do something radical because this isn't working. What I know now is a lot of my beliefs were focused on who I am to others and acceptance and feeling like I'm not disappointing anybody. And so, those beliefs sounded like I'm the one that everybody likes and I'm the glue holding everything together. And, I'm the one who makes everybody okay. A lot of those beliefs were about everybody else, but really deep down, it was I don't matter. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. And I need to perform in order to be worthy and accepted. And so it was really deep seated beliefs that I wasn't enough for who I actually am, right? And so let me put the mask on so that I'm enough, so that I'm enough for you, so that I'm worthy for you, so that I'm worthy of love and affection, whatever it is I might need. Um, those beliefs were so subconscious, right? For most of us, it's so subconscious. We don't even know they're there, but we're operating out of them and then going, why do I feel like shit?
Right. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to, but you can't see the water that you're swimming in.
Yeah, you can't. You're the frog in the boiling pot of water until you realize, like, wait a second, this is really painful.
Yeah. What's that like for you now, like present day, Val? Like thinking about that woman and that transformation and now seeing like what it actually was.
Mm. For me, looking back, I mean, it is like watching a movie of somebody else. Don't you think that's often where we get to in a place where we've done the work to the point where it's like, wow, like I can observe that old part of me, but it just feels very distant. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I really get that. Like sometimes I've been through phases when I think about old versions of me, and sometimes in phases I've been really judgmental
Yep.
parts of me that didn't know better. And other times I can look back, and more often now, I can look back and have just a tremendous amount of compassion. And like I can actually see her bravery, with
Totally.
everything she was trying to do and accomplish when she didn't know better. Like I can see
Yeah.
the courage in that now.
Totally. And, so many women I work with struggle with self-forgiveness for past choices, and I did too, right? And I think that's what you're saying as well. But when you get to a point where you realize like, "Wait a second, she was a badass. Look what she had to deal with. Look what she didn't know. Look how unresourced she was. Like, and look what she did," you know? And so, yeah, I mean, I'm the biggest fan of my former self because I know she was a badass, and even though she did things that hurt people and she made choices that were hurt herself, it's like, yeah, but look at that courage, as you said, and now I'm really grateful for those experiences because it taught me so much, and it gave me the opportunity to even do this work.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What a gift, hey, to be able to look on former versions of ourselves and say, like, what a badass.
Yeah. You're right. And like, who are we to judge that former version of ourselves? Why are we doing that? Why we wouldn't judge our best friend who is doing it? Why are we abusing ourselves for our past choices? Like, let's get over it and start to learn how to give ourselves compassion because we are not meant to walk through this world flagellating ourselves for our past choices.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, really.
You heard that? You said that you had to do something radical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, it started at January 2020. Where I was like, something's gotta change, and I was living in Spain with my husband at the time. We'd been married for 2 years. This was my 2nd husband. And, yeah, things were not well. I didn't know it was in an emotionally abusive marriage, but I was, and so you feel crazy, right? You feel like, "What's wrong with me?" Um but yeah, I realized that, like, something had to give, and was about to meet with a group of friends that we meet every year and share our word for the year, and I was, like, crying on the bathroom floor. I'm like, "I don't know what my word is," but the word selfish kept bubbling up, and I was like, "Wait, wait, wait, I can't pick that, like, that goes against everything I've ever been taught. That's a bad thing to wanna be."
Something that is pretty and abundant. Yeah.
Oh, and here I'm like, selfish. Anyways, the word wouldn't leave me alone, so I got on that call and I was like, "I don't know, this is my word for the year, selfish." And they were like, "Cool, like, can't wait to see what happens." And then I was like, "Hold on, what if I really did it? Like, what if I actually was selfish for a whole year? What if I did an experiment of choosing what was right for me for a whole year?" And it terrified and excited me, which to me is the sweet spot of life. And I've invented the word tear excited because I feel like that's where things are really about to pop off, where it's like I'm freaking out, but I'm also like, oh my God, what might happen? And so That was my radical move was I'm gonna be selfish for a year. I have no idea what that means, but let's find out.
Mhm. So good. You write in the book about this conflict that you're having with your ex-husband, and you're trying to explain to him about this like bold move that you're about to take. And I don't want to spill the beans for everybody because it's a very juicy part of the story. He said in that moment, I had to start learning to trust myself. And this we were about to do was me doing that.
Yeah.
Like, another moment of, like, radical.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it explain radical, right? Explain why that is so bold to
So,
without going into specifics necessarily because you gotta read the whole
you
story.
gotta read that book. Think about it. What does the word radical mean? Um, it's not something that I think a lot of women think about. I think a lot of women think about what's safe, what is familiar, what feels appropriate, what will get me in the least trouble, what will keep me from disappointing people. And so when you think about radical, often I think women are like, well, that's what somebody else would do, but that's not me. However, I believe that fulfillment is a radical act.
Yeah.
Because if you wanna be fulfilled, you have to take a really hard look at yourself, you gotta sit with yourself, you gotta strip away all of this shit you've been operating out of, and you gotta get down to your soul level, which can feel very terrifying, and it means you've gotta disrupt a lot of systems, internally and externally, in order to be fulfilled, and a lot of people just aren't willing to do it. So I think it is radical. And I think that if you are willing to go on a journey of selfish exploration,
Yeah.
you are being a radical woman because you're saying, you know what? I'm going to put myself first. Oh, we don't say that in public. We don't say that in public because that gets us judgment. But I'm saying it because I realized how transformational it really is.
Yeah, when I hear you talk about what is radical, we're not talking about, like, these wild, crazy, like, I'm climbing Mount Everest that, people think of that as radical, but what's radical in what I hear you say is you're flipping the switch from being externally referenced in terms of what is working for you to, like, internal like, you're playing the inside out game, which is
Yeah.
radical when up until that point, everything for you was, "How does this help me look to this person or that person? Am I doing what I'm supposed to?" It's everything is outside in. And the
Yeah.
radical thing and that creates an ordinary life.
That's right.
If we want something extraordinary, the radical thing is to play the inside out game. Of like,
Yeah.
what if I choose me first? What if I reference my heart, my soul, my desires first?
Right? That's radical for women. Because we're living in a society that says, no, 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 you don't get what you want. You don't get to have that. You do what makes other people happy. And so, yeah, it's radical. And we can do externally radical things. And I'm sure you've done them and I've done them too, right? But yeah, for a woman to become internally radicalized, internally connected to her soul, and start to live from that place is radical and it's dangerous. You become a dangerous woman. Like, buckle up, baby. If that's what you want, things are gonna change and you are going to disrupt systems. But yeah, you gotta start with your own internal system. But I'll tell you what, life is a lot more interesting. Life is a lot more adventurous. And yeah, if you wanna just live a flatline life, then do it. It's your life. But I, at 51, was like, "Nah, don't wanna do that anymore. Let's try something different." I don't want that to be my eulogy,
Okay, we just
right?
messy. I don't want that to be my eulogy.
Fuck no. I don't want people to stand there and be like, "She was so nice. She did
Mm.
everything for everybody else, and she was so sweet, and she gave us everything." Like, boring. I want it to be that, and She was a rock star. She was inspiring. She made me proud to call her my mother, or, you know, she did things that changed my life.
Mhm.
She modeled what it looks like to be an independent, powerful woman. I want that on my eulogy. And she was an incredible giver, because when you actually get selfish, which how I define it is so full of yourself, connection to yourself, that you are living in overflow because you've been filling your cup, then you become an incredible giver because you're giving from joy and alignment instead of resentment and burnout. And that's how you actually create an impact, because you're giving from overflow.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's about changing the system, right? And
Yeah.
in my language, like the internal system from something that is parts led and parts driven to something that is self-led, self-leadership. And it is radical. It's radical. So where you've chose the word selfish, and it wasn't easy when you first claimed it. You were just like, really? That?
Yeah.
And, my experience of, like, intuitive hits are like that. It's like, this doesn't make sense, right? So what made you claim it instead of run from it?
I think it was part intuition and part desperation.
Mhm.
Like when I did really feel intuitively that it was a word that was kind of claiming me, but I also was desperately unhappy enough that I was willing to take the risk. And also, I didn't know what that meant. If I knew what that was going to look like, I probably wouldn't have done it. Right? As we often will say. And so I also was just willing to put one foot in front of the other and find out as it unfolded. So it wasn't like some big plan I had. It was like one choice.
Yeah. Yeah, the word I heard you use was willing.
Yeah.
And
Are you willing?
we don't necessarily have to have the whole plan. We don't need to know the whole roadmap. We don't have to have it plotted out from A to Z. We only have to be willing.
Because don't you think that that need to have everything plotted out A to Z is a mess?
Yeah, it's a manager part that's
Yeah.
trying to get ahead, trying to have things figured out, and
Right.
that's how we're trained, right? I don't know how old you were when somebody first asked you, "What do you wanna be when you" that was planned for us before our brain was fully formed.
Right. Right.
And so, when we get to these, like, pivotal moments where if something needs to shift, it requires a whole different way of going about life, which usually means no plan, and it
Yep.
requires a different kind of guidance system, one that is internally referenced, one that is willing.
Willing. I think that's such a powerful word, because yeah, it's not "I'm ready."
Mhm.
It's not "I'm confident." It's not "I know." It's "I'm willing to just take the next step." I'm willing to try, and there's so much power in that, of just being willing, because it shows that you don't know everything, and it's okay. But you are willing to take some kind of action.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's bold, and we can say it now when we've stretched that muscle, but what was your nervous like, what was going on in your nervous system when you were, you know, clicking, the button read the book, everybody. Or you were claiming that word, like, what was going on in the body?
Oh my god. I mean, I was so freaking out on the inside. Like totally, like, sweating my way through my life because it was so terrifying and scary, and I didn't know what I was doing or what this was gonna look like, and I ended up going on this wild journey, which, was not massages and bubble baths. It's, like, messy, getting in the mud and, like, being terrified and still doing it, and so my nervous system was just like, What are we doing? This is not okay. This is not safe." But because I just kept staying the course for a year, I slowly learned how to create inner safety. I slowly figured that out, one day at a time of like, okay, I can walk to the beach and I can sit on the beach and I can breathe with the waves. And that was sort of the first thing I did is like, I'm just gonna like breathe in when the wave comes in. I'm gonna breathe out when the wave goes out. And that that alone started to bring me into myself and go, okay, there's something there that I can do that helps me to feel some type of safe inside of me. And I slowly just started to piece together the ways that I was able to self-soothe and, create inner safety as well as doing these terrifying things. And so that year taught me some really powerful ways that I now teach others in how to, yeah, like, show up in your life in a way that's going to be radical or aligned or exciting, and also be safe inside. And then you don't have to outsource your safety.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden you can make better choices.
Mhm. Yeah, breathing with the waves.
Yeah.
Well, in that year, tell me about a time when you almost abandoned yourself in the mission.
Ooh, I mean, so many times. There's this one time, I'll tell this story. I talk about it in the book where I went to a park and I'm like, I'm gonna go and like have a date with myself, and I have my little picnic lunch and my little book and my journal, and I like sit in the park and I'm like feeling so amazing. I'm like, look at me doing all this stuff. And then I go to walk home and I trip over a curb and I like kind of twist my ankle a little bit and I like landed on the pavement. And this elderly fellow with a mask, because we were in the pandemic, he like doesn't want to approach. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm fine." Right. So the mask comes on of like, "I'm fine. I'm independent. I don't need anybody." And he's like, "Well, just try standing up first." And so I'm like, "Okay, I'm fine." So like hobbling home, right? And I start just like sobbing, like dry heaving, sobbing. I'm like, what is going on? I didn't even hurt my ankle that badly, right? What is going on? And I'm just like, I can't stop crying. And as I sat with that, I realized, like, oh my gosh, number one, I don't have anyone to comfort me. And number in this moment. And number two, I don't know how to comfort myself. And I wanted to just, like, give up, like, call my ex, like, where like, drink a bottle of wine, like, I wanted so bad to just have an external source of comfort to say, like, "It's okay. Are you okay?" Like, hug or whatever. And it's, like, that small moment that felt so overwhelming to me, which is, like, you'd think it would be some big thing, but it was literally that moment. But what I did instead is I'm like, "Okay, well, if I'm gonna be selfish in this moment, then I have to get out of the old patterns of trying to put that mask on of either I'm fine, I don't need anything, or I'm gonna avoid this and numb out."
Mm.
And selfish means I have to sit with my own damn self and be with that. And that was a huge shift for me because I realized, like, wait a second, what do I actually need here? And what can I give to myself here? And how can I learn how to be everything I need right now in this moment? And it was really one of those moments that feels like a scene in a movie for me where it's like a before and an after of like, yeah, like I could have easily given up in that moment. And but I didn't. And like life becomes a string of moments, I guess, like that.
So simple and so profound.
It's simple. We complicate everything. I don't know if you agree with this, but humans complicate the shit out of everything. And honestly, it's simple. It's just very difficult. Like, it's not easy, but it is quite simple.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I can imagine you just like at your house, hand on heart, hand on belly, and just like holding yourself after tripping on a curb. And I've
Yeah.
moments too where you're seemingly fine and the simplest thing happens and you just can't stop crying.
Yeah.
And parts inside are like, "What? Going quick. I thought we were good. It was Dave Nash."
It's like when the fire alarm goes off in my building and all of a sudden I'm like, "What is going on? Is there a fire? What do I need to do?" But that being said, like, there's nothing wrong with getting external soothing, right? Like, we love that. That feels great. But I don't need it. And, I had to learn how to not need it because as soon as you need that external source, you are now going to compromise yourself to get it. But if you don't need it and you can just say, well, that would feel nice right now, but it's okay if I don't have it because I know how to give it to myself. Now you're free. You're free because you don't need that external source. You can appreciate it, you can want it, you can enjoy it, but you are your source. And you have to be selfish in order to do that.
Yeah, you have a choice. You have a choice.
You have a choice. That's right.
Oh, so good. When you talk about, inner architecture, can you tell us what is it? Really? Really?
Yeah. I mean, this is what I'm really excited about now.
Mhm.
And, like we said, we're so aligned with so much of this work. But for me, if you think of inner architecture as your internal scaffolding, your internal building, and in fact, I now see it as my castle. So I've basically built a castle for myself that represents everything I need to live inside of that allows me to be completely whole. So that is mind, body, soul, but also mythology. We have this inner mythos that women, especially, have resonated with over our entire civilization. If you look back, mythology has been something that has always helped us to connect through symbols and imagery and sensory experiences. And so when I think of inner architecture, for me, what I've discovered is that when all of those are aligned in this beautiful castle that we build, it gives us this foundation to then go externally and build whatever we want. And so in my castle, right, it's like, of course, I'm the queen. Right, in my own castle. I'm sitting on the throne. I know my power. I understand my resources. And I know that I cannot be unseated from that because once you're on the throne and you got the crown on your head, like you are the queen until you die, right? If we look at royalty in the world. And within my castle is my neurological programming and where I can go in order to, if I need to rewire my subconscious mind, to align my thoughts, my identity, my beliefs, my focus to align with who I am as the queen. Or I can go into my emotions and go, okay, like what is the wealth and the richness of my emotional life? And what do I want to do with that? How do I want to play with my emotions, and how are they serving me and how can I use them for my own good, right? And then we can look at the body, the somatics. And of course, like, am I connected to the body and all of that? But then we have this mythos, which is like, and this is the work that I'm doing now a lot of, is really the story of you, right? So when we talk about my story, I'm sharing my mythology, right? I'm sharing like, here's the story, here are the roles I've played, here are the experiences I've had. But now it's like, here's what I'm writing now for my future. And so it's really all about like, what's the old story? What's the lesson? How did it serve you? What do you need to get rid of there? And what is the new story you want to write? I just did a workshop last night where we talked about the myth of you. And we were writing our story for 2026. And it's like, okay, well, what's the title of 2026? Who's the main character? Meaning like who are you going to show up as? And how is she going to be unstoppable? What does she need to know and believe in order to be unstoppable? You're writing your own mythology. And then you get to live it and it becomes something that just becomes a part of the fabric of your being. And so, I mean, that's a long answer to your question, but that's what I mean by inner architecture. And as we build that from foundation to floor one, floor two, however many floors you want, that inner architecture now is your stable force to go out into the world and create whatever you want. You want love, you want money, you want career, you want to change systems out there, women need to have the inner architecture in order to be able to sustain that, in order to not sabotage or fuck it up, and in order to not collapse and go back to, those smaller versions or put the mask back on. And this is what I've realized for myself through much trial and error and lots of failure and lots of fucking it up, is that, wow, when I have that, I do feel unstoppable because it doesn't matter if I fail anymore. It doesn't matter what people think of me anymore because I have that inner architecture.
Yeah. So good. When I was thinking about when you were describing like the queen and I was seeing her or on the queen or me, on the throne. See, this is tracking the way I was translating in my brain into, our internal system of parts was like, you can call on some of the gifts of these parts when they're useful. Right? There's times in my life, like right now, as I'm finishing my book, that my perfectionist is very useful.
Absolutely.
Was not the time to like have a space in the wrong place.
Totally.
Right? I can call on my manager part that's like kind of keeping this deadline for me.
Hmm.
Right? And so that's what I'm imagining here is like when we are the queen and of our inner architecture, we can call on the parts when they're needed for their gifts rather than the other way around being, at the whim of them.
They become your counsel.
Yeah.
They each get a room in your castle. They become your trusted advisors or your counsel, but they're not sitting on the throne. Like you said, right? You're on the throne going, okay, perfectionist, come on out. Tell me what you got. How are we going to do this in the way that is excellent or whatever? And now you are truly ruling your life because you're not, like you said, you're not throwing them in the dungeon and being like, you suck. You're saying, no, you have valuable insight, but I will decide what the ultimate decision is. And I think that's a beautiful way to put it is what you just said, right? It's like, yeah, there's lots of times where those parts are useful, but they're not running the show anymore.
I want that for everybody.
I know.
Um, Tell me about self-trust for you.
That's a big one. Well, the
Mhm.
big one. Oh, here's what I'll say. When I embarked on my selfish year, I realized very quickly that I didn't trust myself. Because all of a sudden I'm having to go, well, I'm going to make decisions that are right for me. And then I'm like, I don't know how to make a decision to save my life. I don't trust that I know how to make a decision because I've never owned that. I've never had that, right? So I've abdicated my decision making to everybody else in my life and thought I was just being like the easygoing girl. But really what I was doing is abandoning myself. And so I quickly realized, wait a second, if I'm going to be selfish, I actually have to know myself. And I didn't trust myself, and so how did I do that, right? And so I went on this journey of actually building self-trust because I kinda had to. I'd committed to this thing, and I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess I gotta figure it." And so I did. I started slowly learning how to trust myself through, like, tiny little steps, and I talk about this in the book where I give you strategies on how to build self-trust because I think for me, it was like, micro changes, like micro steps, of like, "Okay, what if I trusted myself about this? Let's see what happens," and like little by little, inch by inch, my self-trust grew. It takes time, right? Like, I lived 40 years not trusting myself, and then you think it's gonna happen overnight? No. But it doesn't have to take another 40 years. It might take a year, it might take a few months, but it is a process, and we have to commit to that like our life depends on it, because I think it actually does.
Yeah, so well said, right? If trusting ourselves is about relationship,
Yeah.
right? It's not unlike building trust with another person, which
Mhm.
time and micro moments. And if we think about the people in our life that we trust, they probably do what they say they're going to do. They're probably honest. They're probably, they show vulnerability, right? And we have to have those micro moments of experience to do that with us, with ourselves.
Well, I'm so glad you said that because I think of that a lot, right? It's like, okay, what helps you to build trust with somebody?
Mhm.
Everything you just said, right? So if we're not doing that for ourselves, why would we trust ourselves? Like if I keep saying, I'm going to go to the gym and then I don't, why would I trust myself? I'm not, my words and actions don't line up with me. So I think that's a great way to look at it.
So, is selfishness actually integrity?
Sure. Of course. Self integrity. Yeah, I like that. Um, because, it's saying I'm not going to abandon myself. I'm
Mm.
not going to give up me. I'm not going to abandon my truth, my self-love, my self-connection for anybody else. And so, yeah, integrity comes from your willingness to put yourself first and your connection first. And it does feel very countercultural. I mean, that's why I like the word because it's confronting. Every time I tell someone like my podcast, Selfish Woman Podcast, my book is a selfish year, and a lot of women will be like, "Ooh,
Mhm.
I don't like that." Like, good. Why not? Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when did you realize all of this experience was becoming a book?
I realized that about 2022. So I had my selfish year in 2020. 2021 was actually when I started seeing the results of my selfish year, and I talk about this in the book. The selfish year was really me just, like, excavating all the bullshit and, figuring all this out, but then 2021 was when I actually was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, everything in my life is changing. I'm making way more money. My career is popping off. I starting this podcast. I have a voice. I lost 55 pounds. I mean, I was just like everything started reflecting all that work I had done in the selfish year. And then in 2022, I was like, this is my book because I've been a writer my whole life. And I knew there was a book I was meant to write, but every time I tried to do it, it just wasn't there.
Mhm.
And that's when I was like, oh, this is the book. And so I started writing in 2022, and, ended up getting an agent in 2024 and got my book deal in 2024 as well. So, that's been a 5-year process for me of all of this work culminating in where I am now and where I'm going. But it's interesting because it's like you gotta live it. You gotta live it first. You gotta live your life and get messy and get in there and have these experiences, and then whatever comes out of that, whether that's just wisdom for yourself or, wisdom with your children or how you show up as a mom or, what you decide you wanna bring into the world, whether that's your career or whatever, it's like, you gotta live it first, I believe, and then you have the integrity to talk about it.
Yeah, that. The theme that's really showing up for me in your story today is just like you didn't know where any of this would go when you did it. Like there
Right.
so many people are like, "Well, but how? But tell me how. I need
Mhm.
to know that this is going to work if I'm going to put the energy into it." Right? And how do I do that? Right? This
Yeah.
it is so common, right? And what I'm hearing in your story is that you were willing, you were radical, you were selfish, and you had no fucking clue what the how was. Like there was
Right.
not an ounce of certainty.
Correct. Correct. I mean, I always say, like, the universe's job is the how and the timing. So stop trying to be the universe because you're not. Okay. It's not your job to know the how or the timing. And your job is to know what you want or what you don't want and to start to get down to the business of aligning with that, with your deepest desires. And this was just the way that I felt like I was supposed to do it. But if you wait to know the how, you're gonna be waiting your whole damn life, and then your eulogy will not be what you want. So you gotta be willing to get really uncomfy. And like, I like to think of it as like, not that like see the path, but I like to think of it like you are the path. And
Mhm.
then like as you take a step, the path unfolds. So like just get into action in your life and be willing to look like an idiot or be cringy or have people think you're crazy, because often that is when the best ideas happen, is when you feel a little crazy, and I certainly did.
One of my favorite things to say is like my best life decisions come from a good feeling.
Yeah.
Not a level of certainty, not a like I know that it's gonna work out
Oh
XYZ.
my God.
It's in the mouth.
No. You
Yeah.
don't know. You don't know. So just like get in your life and get messy and get down to it and like fuck it up. Like go fuck it up, okay? Like please fuck it up. Because like that's the best part. It's like, "Oh my God, that did not work. Okay, what did I learn? Let's try again." Like failure is part of the equation of success. And I know it's a cliche, but it's so true. And when I look back, I'm sure when you look back, you can be like, wow, I had no idea how any of that was going to unfold. But if I waited to have this whole plan of like, okay, Val, here's what you're going to do. Here's what it's going to look like. We would never do it.
I don't think to like my human design profile, I'm a 3-5. I don't know how like well versed you are in human design.
Not at all.
I was like the great life experimenter that's like I literally
Oh,
learned my fucking shit up.
oh, maybe I'm one of those too then. 'Cause I do, I see my life as an experiment, and so that was that experiment of that year that turned into all of this, and now I'm doing a different experiment, right? I'm experimenting with the mythology of women, I'm experimenting with this inner architecture. Well, all last year, I spent in isolation doing this work on myself, designing my own inner mythology, and now, like, I'm excited and fired up about that, right? So it's like, who knows where that's gonna go, but I'm having a good time, and if I've learned anything, like you said, it's how you feel. If I feel excited about something, you better believe I'm going down that path. But I'll say this, don't do it alone. Like I did it alone, and now I don't want women to feel alone because that's so hard. And so like build communities of women who are excited about this stuff and want to do it. Which is why I have like the Phoenix, which is my group for women who are like, hell yeah, I want that. But let's do it together.
Yeah. So good. I want you to tell people how to reach out to you about the Phoenix. And would it be okay if I read your book to you for one blurb?
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. Okay.
It's important. Okay, guys. It's on page 69. It's the lesson. You are the sign you've been looking for. We can get so consumed with needing external validation to convince us that we're making the right choice, whether it's from a friend or partner or that woman on TikTok who always seems to say the right thing. That's never where the answer lies. Sure, we need guidance and expert support at times, but ultimately, the sign that tells you you're on the right track is you. Knowing and trusting yourself is the surest and wisest sign you'll ever find.
Mm,
So good. Yeah,
thank you. Thank you. That was really beautiful.
you.
Man, it's so true. It's so true. You are the sign you're looking for.
Mm. So, for women looking for signs, what do you want them to know? How do they reach out? How they can
Yeah. Yeah.
hear?
Well, that's it, right? You're the sign. And that means if you feel called, if you feel a connection, if you feel an inner yes, that's your sign. And that's what we get to trust, and that's how we connect with the right people. So, if you're listening to this and you feel that inner yes of like, oof, oof, I like that feeling. Okay, let's connect. So, the Selfish Women podcast, listen to that. It's a great place to start. Episode 1 is selfish is not a dirty word. That's a great place to start. The Selfish Year is my book. You can get that wherever books are sold. And then, come over to my website, valeriejones.ca, and you'll see everything else. The Phoenix, like I said, is my private space for women who are ready to ditch the masks, give them another room in that castle and really rise into that queen status and build impact, influence, and revenue. So that's available and that's on my website too. But yeah, just reach out. You can find me everywhere. And I always love to hear from women who are on the journey, just like us.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for today. Thank you for being honest and sharing your story. There's so much wisdom in it. And thank you for being part of my mycelium network, this underground network of women trusting themselves and working on themselves. And oh,
I love that. Sounds like a revolution to me.
I like that.
I
Thank
love it.
you
Thanks,
so
Andrea.
much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
So welcome.